Make every night a wonderful journey, no matter where you are. Good night, sweet dreams. The first story, I found Charlie, the Grim Reaper himself, stood outside the Quick Stop Motel in Richmond, Virginia. He wore his earthly disguise, of course, as this skill required stealth. Charlie Sims had been cheating death for far too long. It was time for him to join the underworld. The Reaper stood brooding against the chilly autumn air. As he watched, waited, not making a sound, from his pocket, he retrieved a small stick, about the size of a police baton, and took soft steps toward the motel building. He walked up to the manager and asked for a room. "You look like you're not from here," said the manager. Handing him his room key, the man simply smiled and took the key without saying another word. He walked upstairs and found his room 4. He inserted the key into the lock and twisted, feeling the sticky lock mechanism tumble and unlock. The room was dark and smelled of death. He loved it. The Reaper didn't even bother turning the light on, or even leaving the room. He simply phased right through the wall into room 3. He found his victim there, sleeping. The Reaper stood over the slumbering body and unclipped his stick, now unlocking into a large scythe. "Now I've got you, Charlie," exclaimed the Reaper, waking the man up. He took one last look at the victim's face as his eyes flew open, and he brought the scythe down into his neck, killing the poor man. "There is no choice. I'm just so tired," said the man, preparing to sleep in this motel for the night. He didn't know what would eventually happen to him. He just parked his car into the lot and opened the door. The chilly autumn air rushed at his face, waking him from his daydream. Tomorrow he would propose to his girlfriend Amy, and they were going to be happy together. He stepped out and closed the door of his Camry, pressing the lock button on his key so it locked behind him. He heard the car chirp and stuffed the key into his jacket. He walked up to the motel manager. "Breezy night, huh?" he said to the manager. "Coldest night is more like it," he said. "Room 3, upstairs." "Thanks, Silro." He walked upstairs and into his room, flicking on the light. It smelled weird here. He threw the set his bag down, changed, brushed his teeth and went to bed. At around 3:00 a.m. he awoke, but he was too tired to open his eyes. Trying to force himself to sleep, the room smelled even worse now. But it might have been his imagination. He heard someone speak, and a weapon unsheathed, and he couldn't believe his ears. His eyes flew open as a large metallic object flew into his neck. He felt the burning sensation first, then the pain. His mouth was filling with blood as he lay there. Gurgling, he struggled to see his attacker's face, but saw only darkness. "I finally found you, Charlie," said the attacker, as the man drew his last breath. One terrifying thought burned. Is his mind as he died? "My name isn't Charlie." Not even close. The second story, blasphemous comfort. I am or was a simple person once, but that all changed that one week that one got angry. You don't want to hear the spoil, don't you? Then I'll just tell you the story and let Sherman what you think I'm like. I woke up on March 16, 2011 after a week-long series of dementing dreams. Most of my dreams are quite disturbing, but this series still makes my blood chill to subarctic temperatures. They all started the same. In my past, it would start almost normally, with only strange details missing. I would leave for school, the world seeming silent on the walk there. things would seem strange. Dogs would commonly yelp instead of barking, and those that barked would have a fierce, rat-cleared pitch to it. Is my spine crawl just thinking about it. Also, everyone would seem depressed, disturbing if you will. But the school was what made this horrifying. The trees seemed lifeless. The grass was overgrown. The kids looked so damn disturbing. They all looked tired, bags under their eyes, and wore dark, colorless clothing when you went in. Instead of the yellow walls and the red and white tile floors, the walls were a dark gray, and the tiles were all a deep blackish red. Some of them seemed to have a deeper tone of red. The dream would always end there, so I cannot go into more detail on the true deformation of the school. Anyways, I woke up to a perfectly normal day. It was my day off. So, some of my friends decided to come over. 2 of them had the day off as well, and the others just called in sick. They got over and we decided to do what we did in university. Eat chips, drink a liter bottle of Mount, and do each and watch and play as many horror movies and video game competitions as possible. If we had known of the coming events, we all would have gone over to someone else's house, apartment, or whatever the hell they had. It would all have been better than losing them all. Anyway, they came over. Jack and his girlfriend, Beth, got a muscle, and fat as a cow. Don't know how he dealt with her. Mickey asshole. If he wasn't good friends with Jack, that ass would be banned from my property. Jacob, my best friend, he didn't deserve his fate, but when the hell do good things happen for good people? And Thorny, me and him were tight. Not gay tight, but tight. And Preston, we had our differences, and he could be an ass, but he was a good friend. Me and Anthony did some Cody zombies, and afterward me and him played against Jacob and Mickey on a shallow reach. I didn't look, but I swear Jack and Beth were getting on third base. But as I say once, and once only, I hate having couples in my house. It was about an hour later, at about 700 p.m. when the funky crap started going on. I knew Jack and Beth were getting busy, because Preston came back saying those 2 had left a sock on the bathroom door. We watched Rob Zombie's Halloween remake, and listened to Another Way to Die, when we heard Jack scream like he had just been shot. We ran upstairs, and he started babbling about how it killed her. We asked what it was, but he just kept referring to the murderer as it. We checked the bathroom, and what I saw made me vomit. Blood stained the floor of the bathroom, and it looked as though she was dragged out the window. Don't ask me why I had a window next to the grabber. We tried to call 911. When the next thing happened, the power went out. It was what flipped the switch that someone else was going to die. The sky was cloudless, and the rain chance was 0.3%. So it was as likely to be a storm as it was to be an alien invasion. We thought the power had been cut, which made us believe it was a serial killer. Now, I didn't like Beth, but no one deserves such a death. We decided that we should all stick together now. Jack needed to be moved, so we hauled his ass down in the basement and lit some candles my ex left at my house. I wish we hadn't. We found Beth, not normal Beth, but a bloody corpse, hanging from the ceiling, intestines lying on the floor, with bite marks on her body. Jacob vomited, and I know everyone else was holding it in, but a miracle happened. The power came back on. We tried to call 911, but the phone had been annihilated. We looked around at each other, and that's when we noticed that Preston was missing. We went to look for him, but it didn't take long to find him. We took 3 steps when we heard a slurping sound. more revolting than anything I've ever heard. We looked down, and what we saw was so horrifying that I won't go into detail. But I will tell you this. It was Preston, or, at least, that's what the corpse looked like. We now knew that whatever did it could not have been human. That's when we knew what to do. I grabbed a box of matches. We left the place, and I burned that hellhole to the ground. The third story, Amy's video. There are generally three main reasons one doesn't talk about their job in polite company. The first is that the job is dull or hazy to the point that talking about it is almost painful, or at least pitifully boring. Second is that an employer has set down rules about what can and can't be told to outsiders. The third is that one does not have a job that can appropriately be discussed in polite company. My job, I suppose, is a little of all three after 10 years of reviewing illegally imported audiovisal material. I have seen pretty much all there is to see of humanity's sickness. Perverted sex, murder, and mutilation have all become routine. Of course, I can't talk much about the things I've seen, nor would most people want to hear about it. What may interest you though, dear reader, is a little urban legend I heard back when I started this job, back when the sight of violence and death still had a profound impact upon me. I was told by a gentleman I will refer to only as George, that amongst our kind, the guardians of moral decency, who keep the filth of less scrupulous countries off our street, there is an urban legend, the legend of Amy's video. According to George, the story goes that after so long on the job, our kind can become desensitized to the extreme violence and cruelty that we witness every day. This phenomenon happens around the world, apparently, wherever our job is undertaken. When one of our people really loses it, George told me, they create their own videos, their minds poisoned by all that they have witnessed. They then send their video internationally through the post, or by giving it to some poor unsuspecting soul who brings it across the border. These videos are filled with violence, perpetrated by the one of our kind who has gone over. Their content murder, torture, rape, mutilation, and their victims men, women, children, animals. Changes between videos, reflecting the maker's preferences and tastes. There are, however, two distinguishing features of the videos. First, a symbol of a stickman, painted in blood somewhere during the course of the carnage's secret handshake, George said of those who had gone over. Second, the video was always disguised a normal video containing the name Amy. The title could be Amy's Wedding, or Amy's First Steps, or simply For Amy. This way, they could be identified by others of our kind. I didn't really believe the story. At the time, I was young and naive, believing that I could never become accustomed to the horrifying images that I witnessed on screen. Never mind consider that one could be convinced to create such carnage themselves. And as the years went by, I became more and more convinced that it wasn't real. We were the protectors after all. It was 6 months ago that the DVD came in. A young man with an extensive stash of pornography from Thailand had it, amongst other dubious content. It was called Amy's Awakening, and judging by the broken English on the cover, was the standard bland porn fare. It was the name, though, that caught my attention when it fell to me to check the DVDs for illegal content. I held that one in my trembling hands, wondering, for the first time, if it could really be true. I studied the cover, sitting in my ergonomic computer chair. I turned the case over and over, looking for some way to ease my anxiety. My gaze settled upon the blurb, the usual claptrap that passed for a plot. 3 words were in bold, and I was drawn to them, like a moth to the flame. Y-O-U-A, R-U-A, B-I-T-L-E-D. That wasn't what made my heart pound. Though no, it was the copyright symbol at the bottom, Stickman Enterprises. It had to be a coincidence, right? With unsteady hand, I put in the DVD. It had been taped over a legitimate porn movie, or maybe the movie had been specially made for it. Who knew? I relaxed, thinking that everything was okay, until the screen flickered and changed. The 2 young girls were Asian, 15 or 16 years old maybe, but I couldn't tell anything about where the movie was filmed. The camera didn't move unless manipulated by the man in front of it. A tall, well-built man in a ski mask. It seemed he was the director as well as the star of this little snuff film. I can't tell you, dear reader, what unspeakable acts took place on camera, what atrocities were committed to film, needless to say. It wasn't pretty, the stickman on the bathroom tiles, though, was what made my heart really race. It was true. It was all true. I sat back, watching the blood flow, watching the bathtub fill with this. It was like a revelation. Dear reader, a sign that our kind, the moral authority, could subvert the norm, could inflict upon the world what we have had to endure ourselves for so long. Remember, dear reader, if you ever become one of us, you are entitled. It may take years of training, but eventually, you will come around. I didn't believe it either. At first, I didn't think it was possible, that I was capable. But the divorce papers my husband served on me today, they made my heart sing. As a sign, a new chapter in Amy's history is coming soon, and I will not miss it.